Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we are talking all about my top tricks for perfect glowy skin. I am a big fan of healthy glowy looking skin all of the time, but especially in the summertime, and as somebody that is dry skinned and also more mature skinned, this can be kind of difficult to achieve. But I've got some great tips to share with you guys today. Hopefully this sounds interesting to you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Special welcome to those of you that are new. Hopefully you'll stick around and hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. With that said, let's jump right into it. Tip number one is all about hydration. I'm a firm believer, as much as I love a good highlighter, glowy skin is more than just a good highlighter. It really starts with really well hydrated, moisturized, plump skin. My very favorite way to get this, and this is particularly true for those of you that do have dry skin, right before I'm getting ready to do my makeup, after I have done all of my skincare, I like to start off with a hydrating setting spray, particularly something with hyaluronic acid. My very favorite one to use is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid setting spray, and I love using hyaluronic acid, but there's a very specific way that you need to use this. Keep in mind, I'm not a skincare expert, but from the research that I have done, hyaluronic acid alone is not going to hydrate your skin, but when used in combination with moisturizers and hydrating ingredients, that's where it really shines. So what I love to do is first spray my skin with the hyaluronic acid setting spray, and then immediately I like to go on top of it with a hydrating primer. A few of my favorites to use are the Milani Soft Focus Glow. I also really love the Garnier Glow Boost Illuminating Moisturizer. I've talked a lot about this one. And if you like something a little bit more pricey, the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter is absolutely beautiful. But if you are not into primers, you can also just use an extra layer of your moisturizer. Now, for those of you that have oily skin, this may not be a step that will work for you. One thing I might recommend if you particularly are oily in the T-zone, you can apply the setting spray and the moisturizer selectively. So either apply the setting spray on a sponge, or you could also spray your face covering your T-zone, just so you get the outside areas that you really want to be extra dewy and glowy. But my skin is very dry, so I like to apply it everywhere. My next trick for perfect glowy skin is your combination of foundation and concealer. Now in the summertime especially, I like to use less foundation and a little bit more concealer if I need it. Most of the time when I'm not really thinking about my makeup or what I want my skin to look like, I will just apply one standard pump of foundation and apply that everywhere. But when I really want to have extra healthy glowy skin, I want more of my skin to show through my foundation, I first off will make sure I pick a more light to medium coverage foundation, and I also won't apply quite as much of it. I really like to apply it with my hands because I find that it melts it into my skin a little bit better. It helps it to kind of work it in with the moisturizers that I have going on underneath. It kind of just makes it become one with my skin a little bit better, and my skin is not going to look perfectly covered at this point. Most of my melasma marks, acne marks, any of those troublesome areas are still going to show through. For those areas, I just add a little bit of extra concealer. I just selectively cover the areas that really need the extra coverage. One tip that I have for doing that and using the minimal amount of concealer is to make sure that you match your skin tone as perfectly as possible. I find the best way to do this is to have multiple shades of the same concealer that I'm using. I always like to have two shades of concealer, one that is as dark or even a little bit darker than my natural skin tone, and one that is about a shade lighter. That way I know I can combine the two in different ratios to get my perfect shade match. And I would also recommend using very small amounts directly on top of the areas that you need it. For example, if I have a spot on my chin that I want to conceal, rather than applying an entire swipe of concealer, I will apply just a dot directly on top of that mark. That way my healthy skin around the blemish is not getting more coverage than it actually needs. Now you can use any concealer formula that works well for you. I've been talking a lot about the Revlon concealers lately. I absolutely love the Revlon Candid concealer, but some other great ones from the drugstore are the CoverGirl concealers. I love the e.l.f. concealers, both the regular 16-hour camo and the hydrating. And for a more high-end concealer, I really love the Too Faced Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. Just remember these two things when it comes to coverage: minimal product, only where you need it. Trick number 3 is layering my bronzer and highlighters. Now what I mean by this is I actually like to use two forms of both my bronzer and my highlighter. I like to use a cream and powder bronzer and also a cream and powder highlight. Now I know this sounds a little bit tedious and a little bit time consuming, but there are two reasons that I love to do this. The first one being I find it easier to achieve a more natural look when I do it this way, and number 2, I also find it to last a little bit longer. With any glowy makeup look, I think the right amount of bronzing and highlight is kind of key. You want to look bronzed, you want to look highlighted, but you don't want it to look unnatural. You want it to look like it's coming from within, or the sun just kind of have made you look that way. So what I like to do a little bit differently when I'm layering my bronzer and my highlight is I like to apply less amount of each of them. When I go in first with my cream product, so for example my cream bronzer, I will take less of this than I typically do when I'm using this on its own. Then I will very lightly tap it into my skin in a very strategic area. I don't want to go too widespread with this because a natural bronze is going to bronze you just basically on the high parts of your face. So I like to apply my bronzer directly at or slightly above the contour of my cheek and then blend slightly upwards onto my cheekbone where the sun would naturally bronze me. I also like to take it in a little bit further onto my cheek area because again, the sun is naturally going to give you bronze on your actual cheek. Then I like to take the remaining product left on my brush and apply it to my temples. I'll apply a little bit to my nose, even a little bit to my neck if I feel like it needs it. But again, I am very light-handed at this step. I really don't want it to be very widespread or even all that noticeable. And that is when I go in with the powder bronzer. Now you can pick any of your favorite powder bronzers for this step. The one that I'm using today is the e.l.f. Primer Infused Bronzer in the shade Forever Sun-Kissed, one of my favorites. And once again with this step, I apply a little bit less to my brush than I normally would. You really want to start off light with the color and build up rather than applying too much and trying to blend it out, because 9 times out of 10 if you try to do that, it's just not going to look very natural. So take your time, build it up, assess how it looks between each layer until you feel like the color is there but it's subtle and natural looking. I then like to do the same thing with my highlight. I like to pick a cream highlighter first and then top that with a powder highlight. Again, the main reason for doing this is for longevity. I find my cheap products to be one of the first things that wears off on my face. I know if I layer a cream and a powder product, it's going to last a little bit longer. And because I want that highlighted glow to last all day long, I love doing that with my highlighter as well. For cream highlighter, I actually don't own a ton of cream highlighters, but one of my favorites that I do own is the Kosas. This is the Duo in 8th Muse, the cream highlighter in here, which is a perfect shade for me. It's kind of a pink toned gold, which works great for me in the summertime. So pick one that you love that works for you and then top it with your favorite highlighter. For my favorite powder highlighter in the summertime, it's got to be this one right here. This is Persona's Zuma highlighter. I love this one in the summertime because it does have a pretty strong gold champagne shift to it, and I do have quite a bit of natural warmth in my skin, especially when I have a bit of a tan in the summer. So I really love the gold tone that this one brings out in my skin. Another summertime favorite powder highlighter of mine is from Wet n Wild. This one is very affordable from the drugstore. This is Precious Pearls. They have other shades of this as well, so you can pick one that suits your skin tone, but this is a very intense highlighter. Be very light-handed with this thing because trust me, it's very easy to go overboard with this, but when used in moderation, this is so beautiful. So remember that trick, layer your bronzers and highlighters to make them last a little bit longer. Trick number 4 for perfect glowy skin is using a liquid blush. I am a new convert to the beauty and power of a liquid blush and what it can do for your skin, especially if you are a little bit more on the dry or mature skin side. Today I used this one, which I have been talking a lot about lately. This is the Juicy Pang Water Blusher. I got this from YesStyle. It is a K-Beauty brand, and I absolutely love the formula of these blushes. They make your cheeks look and feel so plump. They are very wet and liquidy. I just apply them with my fingers, but somehow they magically don't seem to move my concealer or foundation underneath. This gives me the perfect amount of color, and just the texture that these give to your skin is absolutely beautiful and natural looking. I have the shade Guava, which I absolutely love. It's a very basic pink, and it does have a bit of a golden peach shift to it as well. It is so beautiful. I love this. I've been meaning to pick up more shades of these, which I know I've said like 5 times before, but I know there are other cream and liquid blush formulas out there, so just pick one that is your favorite. I know Physicians Formula makes a really great one. I've heard great things about Flower Beauty's blush bombs, and as much as I love all forms of blush, there's something special about a liquid or cream blush that really helps your cheeks to look extra glowy and natural and plump. Tip number 5, selective powdering. Now you guys might know if you've watched my videos that I am not a big fan of powdering my skin. I love my skin to be moisturized, hydrated at all times, but I also know that makeup doesn't last very long if you don't add powder to your skin, especially in the heat of the summer. So my solution to that is to be very selective about the areas that I do powder. You really want to think about your skin and where you need powder. Where do you find your skin to melt a little bit if you're out in the heat? Where do you find oils to appear as the day goes on? Think about those areas, and those are the areas that you're going to want to powder. But you also want to think about the areas on your skin that don't look very good with powder on them. For me, that area is going to be right here on this outside portion of my under eye area. That's where my crow's feet are. That's where I have expression lines, and when I put powder on those areas, those expression lines are severely emphasized, and my under eyes just look dry and terrible. And for me, it doesn't seem to matter what powder I choose or how little I put there. I just try to avoid that specific area. as much as I possibly can. But I do like to put powder down the center of my face, namely on my forehead because I can get some shine there. I also put it here on the sides of my nose. I do get a little bit oily there on hot summer days. And here on the sides of my lips and my smile lines, my makeup can tend to gather and break down right there as well. So those are the areas I will put a light amount of powder, but I try to keep everywhere else powder free. As far as what powder to use, you can just pick one that works best for you. My very favorite is the Rimmel Stay Matte powder because it is so lightweight, and I actually love the pressed form of this powder because it makes it a little bit easier to control how much you get on your brush. So I will just take a little bit of this on my brush and apply that selectively to those areas where I need it, and that is going to help my makeup stay in place, but also help me maintain that fresh, dewy, glowy look where I want it. And with that, you guys, those are all of my tips and tricks for perfect glowy skin. I hope that you guys found this video helpful. These are just some things that I like to do for my skin, but I know that we all have different skin types and different preferences. So if you guys have tips that work for you, please leave those down below. I would love to hear them. Thank you all so much for stopping by today. I really appreciate you guys watching my videos. I hope that you guys are all doing well. I want to remind you one more time, if you haven't yet subscribed, please be sure to do that before you leave. And that is all I have for you guys today. I will see you in my next video. Bye. Sun is playing games with me outside today. Physicians, can never say physician's formula. Somehow, something about that, it just gets me, tongue ties me every time.